most people spend years hoping life will change. But life changes in 30 days if you follow a proven plan. I'll show you exactly what to do, and if you stay with me, I promise it will astonish you. In this lesson, I'll give you a 30-day plan that will transform your life. You'll learn how to discipline your thoughts, fix your goal, and begin to experience the law of cause and effect working in your favor. For 30 days, you'll stop drifting, stop conforming, and start living deliberately. And once you see the results, you'll never go back to the old way again. This is not theory. It is a test you can begin today, and it will prove to you beyond all doubt that you truly do become what you think about. Perhaps you've tried before to change your life and felt disappointed. You set resolutions, you made promises, but nothing seemed to last. That's because most people never stick with anything long enough to see results. They try for a week, maybe 2, and then drift back into the old routine. But 30 days of focused effort is different. It is long enough to prove the law and short enough for anyone to attempt. And in those 30 days, you will discover more about yourself than in years of wishful thinking. You will see why the 95% fail and how the 5% succeed. And you'll know from your own experience that success is not a mystery, it is the direct result of how you think and what you focus on each day. In the next 35 minutes, I'll walk you through a simple 30-day experiment that has changed thousands of lives. We'll begin by uncovering why most people never succeed and why a single month of deliberate thought can make the difference. We'll look at how to set a clear, definite goal that will guide your actions each day. We'll talk about how to discipline your mind so that your dominant thoughts are in harmony with your chosen goal. And I'll show you how persistence, service, and imagination will turn those 30 days into the foundation of a new life. Along the way, I'll share stories and examples that will bring these principles to life. And before we finish, I'll leave you with a challenge. One action you can take today that will prove to you, within 30 days, that you truly do become what you think about. So, stay with me. Because if you do, these next few minutes may mark the turning point of your life. Here's something most people completely miss, and it may be the most sobering truth you'll ever hear. If you take 100 men and women, all beginning at age 25, full of energy, full of hope, full of expectation, and you follow them through life until age 65, here's what you'll find. Only 1 will be rich. 4 will be financially independent. 5 will still be working because they have to. And 54 will be broke, dependent on family, on relatives, or on the government for survival. That's 95 out of every 195% who failed to achieve the success they intended when they started out. Now let that sink in. Almost everyone begins with the same dreams of success, but by the time the years have passed, only 5% ever realize them. Now ask yourself, why does this happen? Were those 95% lazy? No. Did they all lack intelligence? No. Were they unwilling to work? Of course not. They failed for one simple reason. They drifted. They lived like a ship without a captain, pushed about by the winds and tides, never setting a clear course. You can launch the finest ship in the world, with the strongest engine and the best equipment, but if you send it out with no chart, no crew, no captain, no destination, it will drift until it breaks on the rocks. And that is exactly what happens to most men and women. They set out with high hopes, but they never decide where they're going. They never chart a course. They never test themselves long enough to see results. And so the years slip by, and they end up exactly where drifting always leads nowhere. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. Drifting doesn't look dramatic at first. It doesn't look like failure. In fact, it looks normal. You get up each morning, you go to work, you collect a paycheck, you follow the routine. It feels safe because everyone else is doing it. But that's the tragedy. The crowd is drifting too. And by following them, you share their fate. You live outer-directed, waiting for circumstances to tell you what to do, waiting for someone else to decide your future. And when you wake up years later, the opportunity is gone, and the life you wanted has slipped away. Now imagine the stakes. Imagine waking up at 65 and realizing you've spent 40 years working, 40 years hoping, and yet you have nothing to show for it but debt and dependence. That's what drifting costs. But contrast it with a man or woman who chooses a direction, who sets a definite goal, who decides to think and act deliberately. That person may face storms, setbacks, and obstacles, but they are always moving toward their port, and in the end, they arrive. The difference between success and failure is not chance, it is choice. One drifts, the other steers. So, here's the first truth we must face if we want to change our lives in 30 days. Drifting will destroy you. Conformity will keep you trapped. The tragic pattern of 95% proves it. But the good news is that the moment you take the wheel, the moment you set a course and hold it, you leave the 95 and join the 5. And that is what this 30-day test is designed to prove. But before we go there, let's take a closer look at why most people never make this change. Why do they quit too soon? Why do they give up before the law has time to work? That's what we must uncover next. Now here is the second part of the tragedy. Even when men and women realize their lives are not what they want them to be, even when they feel the quiet frustration of drifting, they convince themselves that real change is impossible. They try once or twice, they make resolutions at the turn of the year, they decide to improve for a week or two, and when nothing dramatic happens, they quit. They say to themselves, "I tried, but it didn't work." What they don't see is that change takes time, that the law of thought requires persistence, that results rarely appear overnight. And because they give up too soon, they never discover the extraordinary transformation that was just beyond the point where they quit. Most people never test the law long enough to prove it. They are like a farmer who plants seeds, waters them for a few days, and then digs them up again to see if they are growing. Impatient, doubting, restless, they destroy the very process that would have yielded a harvest. Or they are like a man who joins a gym, exercises for a week, and then looks in the mirror disappointed that he is not transformed. Real change doesn't come in days. It doesn't come in weeks of half-hearted effort. It comes through steady persistence, through giving the law time to work. That is why the 30-day test is so important. 30 days is long enough to prove the law, and short enough for anyone to attempt. But without such a test, most people drift back into the old way, telling themselves that transformation is impossible, when the truth is, they simply quit too soon. Now here is another reason change feels impossible. People confuse activity with progress. They stay busy, constantly moving, constantly occupied, and they mistake that busyness for growth. But busyness without direction is just another form of drifting. A man can run on a treadmill for hours, sweating and exhausted, but he will not have moved one step forward. And this is what so many do with their lives. They fill their days with work, with errands, with distractions, but when you ask them where it is all leading, they cannot answer. They are busy, but not advancing. They mistake motion for meaning. And because of this, they never discipline themselves to think deliberately, to focus on a clear goal, to test the law in a practical way. And here is perhaps the saddest reason of all. Most people don't even know why they get up in the morning. They rise because the alarm clock rings. They go to work because it is expected. They follow the routine because everyone else does. But ask them why they live as they do, what they are working toward, what they truly want from life, and you will be met with silence. They have never stopped to ask, never dared to answer. They live outer, directed lives, moved by habit and conformity, never realizing that they have within them the power to choose differently. So you see, it is not that change is impossible. It is that people have never given themselves to it fully, never tested it long enough, never believed in it deeply enough. They quit before the law can prove itself. They confuse activity with achievement. They live without a reason. And that is why the 95% remain trapped. But here is the good news, and it is the very reason I am speaking to you now. The solution is simple. If drifting is the problem, deliberate thought is the cure. And the best way to prove it, beyond any argument, beyond any theory, is through a simple 30-day test. 30 days in which you discipline your mind, fix your goal, and live deliberately. 30 days in which you give the law time to work, 30 days that can transform your life, and that is where we must go next. Here is the heart of it, the principle on which everything else rests. We become what we think about. That is the strangest secret, and it is not hidden in the shadows of history, nor is it locked away in the teachings of a few wise men. It has been written, spoken, and proven again and again for thousands of years. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." The book of Proverbs tells us, As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. William James, the father of modern psychology, said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes of mind." And yet, despite all of this, most men and women live as if they had never heard it. They fill their minds with fear, worry, envy, and resentment, and then wonder why their lives return only disappointment. But the law is simple. The soil of the mind will yield whatever is planted in it. If you plant flowers, you get flowers. If you plant weeds, you get weeds. The soil does not argue, it does not discriminate, it does not care. It simply returns what was sown. Now let's set the stakes. If you allow negative thoughts to dominate your mind, your life will grow into the shape of those thoughts. A man who dwells constantly on debt, for example, finds himself deeper in debt. He hesitates to act, he avoids opportunities, he fears risk, and because his mind is fixed on lack, lack becomes his experience. Another man, in the very same situation, chooses instead to fix his mind on growth, on service, on the value he can create for others. His imagination is busy with ideas, his energy is directed by faith, and slowly his life reflects those thoughts in increased opportunities and wealth. The difference between those two men is not chance, not luck, not education. The difference is thought. The first man planted weeds, the second planted flowers, and the soil returned each in kind. So here is the solution. For 30 days, choose deliberately what you will think about. Write down one definite goal, something clear, something worthy, something that you truly desire. Carry it with you, look at it often, and then fill your mind with it morning, noon, and night. Think about it when you wake. Think about it as you work. Think about it as you fall asleep. Let it dominate your thoughts. And each time a negative thought tries to intrude, cast it out and replace it with your goal. Do not allow weeds to take root. For 30 days, plant only the seeds you want to grow. And this is not theory. This is law in action. Just as gravity never fails, the law of thought never fails. Give it 30 days, and you will see for yourself. At first, it may seem difficult. Your mind will try to wander, to slip back into its old patterns of worry and doubt. But each time, bring it back. Replace the thought. Choose again. Day after day, the discipline becomes easier, and soon your mind begins to align with your goal. And as it does, you begin to notice changes. People respond to you differently. Opportunities appear that you once overlooked. Ideas come to you unbidden. You feel a quiet confidence you never had before. These are the first shoots of the harvest, the evidence that the law is working. Now let me ask you, can you give 30 days to prove this for yourself? 30 days is not long. It passes quickly whether you use it or waste it. But if you use it, if you dedicate 30 days to thinking deliberately, you will have in your hands the proof of the strangest secret. You will know, not because I told you, not because you read it in a book, but because you have seen it in your own life. And once you know, you will never drift again. But to succeed, you must follow certain rules. There is a definite way to put this 30-day test into practice, and without it, you will fall back into drifting. So let us now look closely at the exact rules of the challenge, and how you can begin today. Now here is where we make it practical. You may say to yourself, all right, I understand the law we become what we think about, but how do I apply it? How do I keep my mind fixed for 30 days when it has wandered for years? That is where the challenge comes in. There are rules to this test, and if you will follow them faithfully, you will prove to yourself the truth of the strangest secret. They are simple, but they require discipline. And if you fail, start again, for the law is patient, and it will reward you the moment you align with it. Rule number 1, write down one definite goal. Take a small card, and on it write clearly what you want most. Make it specific. Make it worthy. Do not write down 10 things. Do not fill the card with vague wishes. Write one definite aim, the one thing you most desire to achieve. Carry it with you. Look at it often. Read it every morning when you rise, every night before you sleep, and as often as you can throughout the day. Let that one goal dominate your mind. Rule number 2, think about your goal constantly. Let it be the background of your mind in every spare moment. When you find yourself drifting, bring your thoughts back to it. When you feel fear or doubt creeping in, replace them with your goal. This is the training of the mind, the planting of the seed. And just as a seed grows beneath the surface long before you see the harvest, your goal will begin to shape your actions, your words, your attitude, long before you see the result. Trust the process. Keep thinking about it. Rule number 3, expect obstacles. For 30 days you will be tested. Doubts will rise, distractions will appear, difficulties will come. This is not a sign of failure. It is the law at work. The weeds will try to grow, and you must pull them out. Each time you face an obstacle and persist, you strengthen your character, and you prove to yourself that you are serious. Remember, most people quit because they expect instant results. They do not understand that obstacles are part of the process. Do not quit. Persist for 30 days. Rule number 4, each day, measure yourself against your goal. Ask, did my actions today move me closer to my goal or further away? If closer, continue. If further, correct yourself tomorrow. This daily review keeps you honest. It keeps your actions aligned with your thoughts. It turns the 30-day test from a mere mental exercise into a practical discipline that shapes your entire life. Now let me be clear. This test will not be easy. Your mind will resist. Old habits will fight to return. Negative thoughts will try to intrude. But that is why this challenge is powerful. It forces you to confront your own thinking, to take responsibility for your own mind. And once you do, once you control your thoughts for 30 days, you will never again doubt your power to shape your future. So here is the invitation. Begin today. Write your goal. Carry it with you. Think about it constantly. Refuse to dwell on anything that does not move you toward it. Persist through the obstacles. And at the end of 30 days you will look back astonished, because the law will have begun to work, and you will have proven it in your own experience. Now that you know the rules, the next question becomes obvious. What kind of goal is worthy of 30 days of your life? Because not every goal deserves that kind of focus. Some are too small, too empty, too borrowed from others. If you are going to dedicate 30 days of your life to one aim, it must be worthy. So let us now look closely at how to choose and hold such a goal. Now that you know the rules of the challenge, we must settle something even more important. What kind of goal is worthy of 30 days of your life? Because not every aim deserves your attention. Not every desire is worthy of the power of your mind. Some goals are empty, some are borrowed from others, some are little more than a reflection of the crowd, chosen not because they are true to you, but because they look impressive in the eyes of others. And here is the tragedy. Many men and women spend their whole lives chasing such goals. They pursue money for its own sake, or fame, or the approval of neighbors, only to discover at the end that they are still empty, still restless, still searching. That is because success is not simply the attainment of a goal. It is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Now let us set the stakes. If you choose an unworthy goal, you may achieve it, but it will leave you hollow. You may gain wealth, but if it is not tied to service, it will not satisfy. You may gain applause, but if it is not tied to purpose, it will not endure. That is why so many, having reached the top in the eyes of the world, still confess to feeling lost and unfulfilled. They climb the ladder, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. But if you choose a goal that is truly worthy, something aligned with your talents, your values, your conscience, then every step you take toward it brings satisfaction. Even the journey itself becomes success, because you are moving each day toward something you have deliberately chosen as right. So what makes a goal worthy? A worthy goal is one that makes use of your abilities in the service of others. It is something that calls upon your strengths, excites your imagination, and contributes value beyond yourself. A teacher who chooses to be the best teacher she can be, devoting herself to her students, is as successful as the businessman who builds a thriving enterprise. A craftsman who sets out to master his trade, a mother who dedicates herself to raising her children with love and wisdom, an artist who pours himself into his work with honesty and passion, each is a success because each is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. Now let me bring this closer to you. Ask yourself, what goal would make my life meaningful? not what would impress others, not what would silence critics, not what would win applause, but what would make me feel that my life is being lived with purpose, with direction, with dignity. That is the question you must answer before you begin your 30 days. Because when you write that goal on your card and carry it with you, you are not just choosing a destination for the next month. You are choosing the guiding star of your life. And here is something worth remembering. The world may not understand your goal at first. They may laugh, they may criticize, they may say you are foolish, but that does not matter. You are not aiming to please the 95%. You are aiming to live deliberately, to think deliberately, to join the 5 who succeed. And they succeed not because their goals were always grand in the eyes of others, but because their goals were worthy in their own eyes, and they pursued them with faith and persistence. So before you begin your 30-day test, decide. What is your worthy ideal? Write it clearly. Carry it daily. Fix it firmly in your mind. Because once you have chosen a goal that is truly worthy, you will find that every thought, every action, every day of the test takes on a new power. You will no longer be drifting. You will be steering. And with each step forward, you will know you are already a success. But choosing the goal is only the beginning. Once it is chosen, you must hold it. You must discipline your mind to think of it constantly, to guard it against the weeds of fear and doubt. And that is what we must explore next. Now that you have chosen a goal, now that you have written it down and committed yourself to carrying it with you for 30 days, the real work begins. For the greatest battle you will ever fight is not with circumstances, not with competitors, not even with the world outside. It is with your own thoughts. The mind is a restless thing, easily distracted, easily influenced, easily pulled back into old habits of fear, doubt, and worry. And unless you learn to discipline it, your goal will slip from your grasp. That is why I say discipline of thought is the foundation of all achievement. You must learn to guard the mind as a fortress, to admit only those thoughts that serve your purpose, and to cast out every thought that would destroy it. Now, think of what happens if you do not. Suppose you write your goal on a card, you carry it with you, you read it daily, but you allow fear to dominate your thoughts. You let yourself dwell on what could go wrong, on the obstacles, on the critics, on the doubts. You let resentment fester, envy creep in, discouragement take root. What happens then? Your goal becomes a mere wish, a faint idea drowned in a sea of negative thoughts, and the law, faithful as ever, will return not your written goal, but your dominant thoughts of fear and doubt. You will harvest the weeds you allowed to grow. That is why most people fail, even when they know the truth. They never discipline their thoughts. But here is the solution, and it is simple, though not easy. Each time a negative thought enters your mind, and it will, many times each day, you must recognize it for what it is and refuse to dwell on it. Replace it at once with your goal. Repeat it, picture it, see it as already achieved. In time, this act of replacement becomes a habit, and the habit becomes character, and your character becomes destiny. This is the training of the mind, the weeding of the soil, the discipline of thought, and it is what separates the 95 who drift from the 5 who succeed. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who has set as his goal to build a successful business. On his card, he has written clearly what he wants. But each time he faces a difficulty, he allows himself to think, "It's hopeless. I'll never make it. This is too hard." What happens? His mind, his attitude, his actions all begin to reflect that thought. He hesitates, he delays, he loses confidence, and soon he proves himself right, he fails. Now imagine the same man facing the same obstacles, but instead of feeding the thought of failure, he replaces it with his goal. He says to himself, "This challenge is part of the process. I am building something worthy. I will persist." And because his thoughts are different, his actions are different. He pushes through, he finds solutions, he persists until he succeeds. The difference between those two men is not circumstance, it is discipline of thought. And here is something practical you can do. Each morning, before you begin the day, take your card and read your goal slowly. Close your eyes and picture it. See yourself already in possession of it. Feel the gratitude, the expectancy, the enthusiasm. Then carry that attitude into your day. Throughout the day, whenever doubt appears, pull out your card and remind yourself, Each evening, review your day and ask, did my thoughts today move me closer to my goal or further away? This daily discipline fixes your goal into your subconscious mind until it becomes as natural as breathing, and once it is fixed there, nothing can stop it from becoming reality. So remember this, the goal gives you direction, but discipline of thought keeps you on course. Without it, you drift. With it, you arrive. And though it may feel difficult at first, each day of practice makes it easier until it becomes a way of life. Then you will discover that you are no longer a victim of your thoughts, you are their master. And when you master your thoughts, you master your life. But even with a worthy goal and disciplined thought, you will face moments when you want to quit. There will be days when you feel tired, when obstacles loom large, when progress seems invisible. And it is in those moments that one final quality makes all the difference. That quality is persistence. And it is persistence more than anything else that determines whether you will finish the 30-day test and transform your life. Now let us look ahead, because I want you to see clearly what will happen if you take this challenge seriously, if you write down your goal, discipline your thoughts, and hold to it faithfully for 30 days. At the beginning you will feel excitement. There is always energy at the start of something new. You'll feel a spark of hope, a sense of purpose, the thrill of beginning. Those first days will feel fresh, and you'll think to yourself, this is easier than I expected. But soon after, the real test will come. Somewhere in the middle, around the second week, you'll find your old habits trying to creep back in. You'll feel the pull of doubt, the weight of distractions, the temptation to quit. This is the moment when most people fail. They mistake difficulty for defeat. They think because it feels hard, it must not be working, but that is not the truth. That difficulty is the proof that the law is working, that your old patterns are being broken, that the weeds are being uprooted. If you will press on through those days, if you will persist and keep your mind fixed on your goal, you will emerge stronger. And then something wonderful begins to happen. In the final days, as you approach the end of the 30 days, you begin to feel a momentum. Your mind feels clearer, your attitude lighter, your confidence stronger. You notice small but undeniable changes. You catch yourself thinking differently, speaking differently, acting differently. People respond to you in new ways. Opportunities that once passed unnoticed now stand out clearly. You feel in your spirit a sense of alignment, as though your inner world and outer world are finally moving in the same direction. And you realize that the strangest secret is no longer a theory, it is a reality in your own life. By the 30th day, you will know beyond all doubt that we become what we think about. You will have seen it, not as an idea in a book, but as a fact in your own experience. And once you know it, once you have proven it to yourself, you will never again be the same. You will never again drift through life as if your thoughts did not matter. You will never again believe that success is a matter of luck, or that failure is a matter of chance. You will know that success and failure alike are the fruits of thought, and that you have the power to choose which you will harvest. And here is something important to understand. The 30-day test is not an end, it is a beginning. It is the doorway into a new way of living. If you stop at 30 days, you will gain much, but if you continue, if you make this way of thinking a permanent habit, the rewards will multiply beyond measure. You will not only reach your first goal, but you will set new ones. You will not only discipline your thoughts for a season, but you will build character for a lifetime. You will not only prove the law once, but you will live in harmony with it always. And when you do, success becomes inevitable. So picture this clearly. One man ignores the challenge. He says to himself, 30 days cannot make a difference. He drifts, he conforms, he continues as he always has. At the end of the month, nothing has changed, and nothing ever will. Another man accepts the challenge. He writes his goal, disciplines his thoughts, persists through the difficulty, and by the end of 30 days, he is transformed. His mind is clearer, his direction sharper, his confidence stronger. He has momentum, he has proof, he has faith. The two men started in the same place. After 30 days, their lives are already different. After 30 years, they will be unrecognizable. And the difference began with a simple choice to test the law. So let me say again, the 30-day challenge is not magic. It is not a trick. It is the practical application of the strangest secret. And if you will take it, you will prove to yourself that your thoughts shape your life, that your goal, carried faithfully in the mind, will begin to shape your destiny, and that once you know this, you hold in your hands the power to transform not only 30 days, but every day that follows. And now, as we bring this lesson to a close, let us gather everything together into one clear challenge. And so we come to the close of this journey, and I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what we have seen together. We began with a tragic truth that most people never change their lives, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they drift, they conform, and they never stay with anything long enough to see results. We saw that the 95% fail not out of laziness, but out of habit, out of drifting, out of failing to test themselves long enough to prove the law. We uncovered the strangest secret of all, that we become what we think about, and we saw how the 30-day test is the simplest, clearest way to prove it. We laid out the rules: to write down one definite goal, to carry it with you, to think about it constantly, to replace every negative thought with your chosen ideal, and to persist through the obstacles that always appear. We discovered that the kind of goal you choose matters, that it must be a worthy ideal, something noble enough to give shape and meaning to your life. And we saw that discipline of thought is the great battleground, for without it the weeds will always return. Finally, we looked ahead to the rewards of finishing the 30 days, the clarity, the confidence, the new momentum, the undeniable proof that you truly do become what you think about. Now let me put this as plainly as I can. Do this for 30 days, and you will never again doubt your ability to shape your own future. You will never again drift through life as if your thoughts did not matter. You will never again look at the success of others with envy, because you will know that you hold in your hands the same law, the same power, the same possibility. You will know from your own experience that success is not a mystery, not a matter of luck, but the natural result of thought fixed on a worthy goal, carried forward with persistence, service, and imagination. That knowledge alone is priceless, because once you have it, no one can ever take it from you. So here's my final challenge to you. Before this day ends, write down one clear, definite goal. Make it worthy. Make it something that excites you, something that gives meaning to your days. Carry it with you. Think about it constantly for the next 30 days. Guard your mind as a fortress. Admit only those thoughts that move you toward your goal, and cast out everything else. Persist through the obstacles. Expect them. Welcome them as signs that you are on the right path. And when the 30 days are finished, look back and see what has happened. You will be astonished. You will be changed. And you will know that the power to transform your life lies within you. Remember this great truth: we become what we think about. Fix your thoughts on your goal, and your life will move toward it as surely as the sun rises in the east. Guard your mind. Choose your ideal. Persist in its pursuit. Do this, and you will have proven the law for yourself. And once you have proven it, you can live by it for the rest of your life. Now, before you go, let me leave you with this. In my next message, I will share with you one daily practice so simple, so easily overlooked, that it ensures you never slip back into drifting. Most people never do it, and that is why they fall back into the old ways. But those who do make it a habit find that success becomes inevitable, because the law works for them every day without fail. So take the challenge now. Begin today. Write your goal. Carry it with you. Think about it constantly for the next 30 days. And then join me in the next lesson, where I will show you how to keep this power alive for a lifetime. Because the truth is this: your future begins not in 30 years, not in 30 weeks, but in the next 30 days, and the choice is yours.